Do y'all know how messed up the US government has to be for the entire states of both Texas and California uniting and joining forces? That is like the Crips and the Bloods uniting. That shit will never happen. Also, the fact that A24 dropped this movie during election year is high-key the funniest thing ever. Ladies and gentlemen, what a time to be alive. So Civil War is the latest installment from the GOATs themselves, as always, A24. The film is directed by Alex Garland and it stars Kristen Dunst, Wagner Moura, Kaylee Spaney, and Stephen McKinley Henderson. In a dystopian future America, a team of military-embedded journalists races against time to reach Washington, D.C. before rebel factions descend upon the White House. Now, I'm just gonna rip the band-aid right off. This movie is not for everybody. This movie is certainly going to ruffle some feathers, especially those that may be more far left or more far right. Which is funny about this movie because this movie, it doesn't pick sides. This movie doesn't try to tailor towards one side of the spectrum or the other. I think the main goal of this movie was to essentially tell America, hey, this is what a civil war would look like if citizens of America just said, you know what? Fuck the US government. Let's form our own rebel faction. You would get this. And this movie really serves as a wake-up call and a message to how we as citizens should not let America get to that point. And that is why I believe Alex Garland wanted to tell the story from the journalist standpoint. Because I feel like if he had told it from like the Western forces standpoint or the US government standpoint, again, it would have felt like he was tailoring towards a Pacific side or the other. So I think telling it from the journalist standpoint was probably the best way to approach a movie like this. This movie is very, very morbid. I think the movie does a really great job at capturing how this broken America would look like in the events of a civil war. Because throughout the entire movie, we see how people are handling the civil war. Some are preparing for battle, some are just doing their own Call of Duty type missions, and others are just going about their day as if there isn't a civil war going on across the country. And I thought that was interesting because not everyone is going to be on the same page in the event of a civil war. The movie does a great job at capturing the brutality and the lack of humanity, and also the heightened humanity in this world, because this movie, despite some of the good that some people do, there are other people who commit acts that are very inhumane. This is a very, very unforgiving world. So I appreciate Alex Garland for not holding back. And the cinematography is gorgeous in this movie. I think the cinematography really heightens this brutal, dark, and morbid dystopian America. Like, it is shot beautifully. You could be watching the most gruesome, most diabolical shit happen on screen, but you will also say in the back of your head, damn, despite how gross that was a pretty cool shot. The entire cast was great. Kristen Dunst, Wagner Moura, Stephen McKinley Henderson, and Kaylee Spaney, they were all great. I don't think the characters are like the most well-written characters, but I think they are written enough to the point in which you somewhat find them likable and you do kind of care about them, at least for me. But I did kind of question Kaylee Spaney character. I believe her name was Jessie. Yeah, her name was Jessie. She does something near the very end of the film that kind of had me a little, Given how much Jessie admired Lee, who was played by Kristen Dunst, it was kind of weird that she did that. Like once you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. I thought that was, I don't know, but I've had conversations with close friends and also other fellow YouTubers, and they've all given me their perspective on how they interpreted that scene or what that scene meant. But even with all of their interpretations, I was like, I get it, but I also don't get it. In fact, I think this is the most divisive and also the most engaging film that I have seen in quite a while. But going back to the film, this movie has some crazy intensity, like some real crazy intensity. There is one scene in particular that involves Jesse Plemons, and I gotta tell you, despite the short amount of time he's in this movie, he has probably the most intense scene in the entire movie. That scene was like the most intense I've ever felt in a movie theater. Shout out Jesse Plemons, man, because this dude can show up for like 5 minutes and still have one of the best scenes and be one of the biggest standouts in that project. But I do have one complaint, and that is how the movie doesn't explain how the Civil War even happened. I would have loved to see, or at least hear, how this all occurred. They could have had the journalists at least explain at some point in the film how this Civil War even occurred or why it happened, you know what I mean? But in the end, y'all, Civil War is one of the best films I've seen this year. This movie is a masterful achievement in filmmaking. Civil War serves as a cautionary tale for what would happen if we, as American citizens, essentially outbreak into an all-out civil war. Because given the amount of civil unrest that has been going on in America for God knows how long, let's not get to that point. Please and thank you. And again, with this film dropping during election year, and given our options for the primary presidential election, it's not looking good, bruv. But that is just me. So, plugging Civil War into the rank system, I am placing this one into the pinnacle zone. But yeah, y'all, that is pretty much my review for Civil War. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys thought about Civil War. Did you love it? Did you hate it? If a civil war does happen in this country, how are you going to handle it? Whatever you thought, let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, guys, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you all in the next one.